I don't believe that we should ever have a good money again before we take the thing out of the hands of government.
Welcome back, everyone. We're Simply Bitcoin. We break down the news, the daily fail, meme review, software releases, hardware releases, and the websites by plebs. Joining us today, fellow Bitcoiner, host and founder of the Advanced Tech Podcast and VP of Product at Liquid FinTech. I'm talking about Alexandra. She's joining us. But right now, we are diving into the numbers. Let's do it.
Number time. Brought to you by Bitcoin 2022. It's going to be the largest Bitcoin conference ever, hosted in sunny Miami Beach, Florida. It's April 6th to 9th. It's coming up. It's in less than a month. Get your tickets quickly. The speaker list includes President Nayib Bukele, Michael Saylor, Saifedean, Adam Back, Jack Mallers, Senator Lummis, Jordan Peterson. It's going to be absolutely bonkers. Some good news. You can take advantage of the link down below for 10% off your tickets to Bitcoin 2022.
At the time of this recording, the block height is 728,551. The Bitcoin price, 42,645. Chain rewrite days, 740. Total public lightning capacity, 3,528.35. Moscow time, 23:45. Blocks to the halving, 111,449. And the Samurai Whirlpool unspent capacity. Samurai Whirlpool is a coin join or collaborative spend and is not a mixing service. Its unspent capacity is 4,436.25. Nico, the numbers.
The numbers.
Listen,
it might not be a mixing service, but that doesn't mean they're going to try to make it illegal anyways. I'm going to keep saying that every single day until I'm telling you, it's going to be another Nico's right moment. And you'll see why in the news. But anyways, you told Alexandra before the show that, you know, the numbers, sometimes we cover hopium, right? Some interesting stats. Today, we're going to change it up. We're going to react to some interesting videos that I saw on Twitter. The reason I'm going to play this one is because Simply Bitcoin, we told you so. So anyways, this is interesting. I also have a video by Elon that we'll play in a second. But I'm going to shut up. Let's check out the video. It's by President Biden.
You know, we are at an inflection point, I believe, in the world economy. Not just the world economy, in the world. It occurs every 3 or 4 generations. As one of the top military people said to me in a secure meeting the other day, 60 million people died between 1900 and 1946. And since then, we established a liberal world order, and that hadn't happened in a long while. A lot of people dying, but nowhere near the chaos. And now is a time when things are shifting. There's going to be a new world order out there, and we've got to lead it. We've got to unite the rest of the free world in doing it. So anyway, you know, we are...
Okay, so a couple things, right? Before we play the Elon, let's react to that one. So we were right about the fourth turning theory that we talk about on this channel. That's what he was referencing when he says every 3 generations or something like that. All the conspiracy theory. I mean, they weren't really conspiracy. That's the thing. They call it conspiracy, but all the episodes that, you know, they would call you, you know, conspiracy theorists, where, you know, Phil was pointing out, you know, we would go through threads and we would feel bad because we would have guests on, and, you know, it was all that, dude. Like, there you have it. You have the president himself literally referencing a new world order. Strange, bro. Strange. And anyways, I wanted to comment this, but I kept myself back on the tweet. If you don't want to participate in this new world order, just opt out and buy Bitcoin. If you're in dollars, you're going on for the ride with Biden. Anyways, and the president that comes after. Anyways, Phil?
Okay, politics aside, regardless of what party is involved, I just want to say watching that speech is scary. It's scary for a number of reasons. Not really so much the messaging, but more the senility. The senility kind of scares me. I genuinely feel like, you know, people could say whatever they want, but he's like a Manchurian candidate, right? Like, he's just this person that, like, they've put together and poof, they put him up in front of you, and he's playing his role, even though he's kind of doing a really 9-to-5 job about it. He's playing his role. Now, look, you know, that new world order they've been talking about, okay? They've been talking about this past presidencies, I'm trying to remember right now who was the past president that also mentioned the New World Order, but I feel like it was one of the Bushes that may have mentioned it. I could be wrong. It doesn't matter. Look, at the end of the day, they've been the people that want to usher in, because it's not everyone, right? It's not like, that's the other thing. It's not everybody in this situation that wants to usher in this quote unquote New World Order. I believe that there are multiple factions of people all trying to usher in their own version of the New World Order. But my point is that these people have been trying for a very long time, and the nail in the coffin was in 1971. They knew that once they separated, once they took the U.S. monetary system off of the gold standard completely and just let it float off into the atmosphere, they understood exactly what they did. So yeah, we are at the end of one of those financial cycles. The old senile guy knows it, and unfortunately, he's driving the frickin' bus, okay? That's scary. I want nothing to do with that ride. Nothing to do with that ride.
It's like, if your money is not in Bitcoin, if your wealth is not in Bitcoin, that is what you have to care about politics. Like you're forced to, right? Anyways, Alexandra. And again, we didn't really give any political thoughts on that, Phil. We were just observing it from the perspective of plebs. Anyways, Alexandra.
Yeah, so I mean, I want to stay away a little bit from, political leanings and all that other kind of stuff, because I mean, ultimately, I think it doesn't matter. I think whoever's up there is, the candidate of the moment, and what kind of power do they actually have? I don't know. I mean, it's supposed to be the most powerful position in the Western free world, but is it? I mean, if you look at kind of what's happened over the last few years, so it's confusing. It's so hard to get a read on what's actually happening. It's so hard to get an accurate news source. I really do think that our only option for opting out is Bitcoin and building parallel systems. So it's something that I was able to see when I spoke at HCPP, which is in Prague, Paralelní Polis. It's a hackers congress, and I spoke about the death of the old world and kind of going into this new world, not New World Order in the sense that these overlords would have, but really it's just about empowerment and how Bitcoin plays a really central part of that.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Yeah, look, I agree. I agree with you completely. I think if we didn't have Bitcoin right now, look at what you would have to deal with, and then you'd have to get it. It's like, oh no, but I want Trump. Oh no, but I want Biden. But at the end of the day, I think you hit the nail on the head, Alexandra. It's two sides of the same coin, right? It doesn't fix the issue, right? Anyways, interesting stuff. I feel vindicated, Phil. I feel vindicated. I felt so bad for the longest. I'm like, dude, we're just talking about these things. It's so obvious, Like, anyway.
We sound insane.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. But anyways, go ahead, Alexandra. Sorry.
What's the saying? It's what's the difference between conspiracy theory and news? About 6 months.
Yeah, we're the 6 months. The unfortunate part for us is that we cover it as soon as it drops. So we like doubt ourselves for, not anymore, but in the beginning we doubted ourselves for the first couple of months, and then we started to pick up on a pattern. What we reported ended up on Tucker Carlson like 3 months later. And I was like, okay, Phil, I don't think we should feel so ashamed anymore. We should just report things, be sincere, be honest, report things. You see it, you point it out, you give your opinion. But it's so crazy to think how conditioned you are, right? So if it's so unbelievable, it's automatically a conspiracy theory. If it's so ridiculous, it's automatically a conspiracy theory. And how much of the government played a role in that, right? It's like making you believe that. Anyways, I'm going off on a tangent. Phil?
We were prefacing everything with, we're not conspiracy theorists, but this is strange. It's like we were sitting there giving excuses as to why this sounded so weird, and then we just stopped giving excuses. We're like, yep, this is what the clown world's doing. Here you go.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And then the thing that breaks my heart is we were more accurate than your so-called betters, the so-called journalists. And then we started to realize that journalists and legacy media, I don't think their sole purpose is to tell the news. Their sole purpose is to make a narrative, right? Which is why independent creators are becoming so popular. You have Joe Rogan surpassing, legacy media's popularity, right? He's getting more average viewers than any of the cable news shows by like a large margin, right? So, and I think that has to do with people are sick of the narrative. They're sick of the stories. Because I think what you said, Alexandra, is totally right. I think that the traditional left and right part, like the actual common people, I'm not talking about the political heads, right? I don't think they hate each other so much. I think it's like they're conditioned to think like that. But anyways, Bitcoin does fix this. But Phil, it's time for
The Daily Fail. Brought to you by Amber App. Check them out. Amber.app. You've got a stack. We've got a stack. Everyone's got a stack. Low fees, fair spreads, smart automation. The link is down below.
Amber, the smart way to stack sats.
This fail segment is just going to be a complete cluster of ETH failure. And we are just going to dive right into it with this first video. This was actually, so we were tagged by ICO Sonat, and this is a tweet by Matt C. And
wait, could you go down on the ICO Sonat tweet?
Oh yeah,
I love how he gets. I love like everyone knows what that means.
You can send this guy a thank you for making your job
it gets
so easy.
It gets 15 likes but people know what that is. Like, oh, it's gonna end up on Simply. You guys are awesome. We love you guys. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
This is great. Okay, so look. So this is a trader, right? Who's essentially who's talking about ETH, right? He's a crypto bro, talking about ETH and its qualities. And yeah, let's dive into this.
You know exactly what you're buying. You know you're buying a token where there are 19 million in the market today, and every 10 minutes, 6.25 are going to be in the market. And you know that before you buy it. That's why you're comfortable to buy Bitcoin. And the same thing with Ethereum. If we look at Ethereum, you go to ETH, and it says, so ETH has a supply which doesn't end because it keeps releasing tokens. You know exactly.
Oh, that's the end of that. That's the end of that. Okay, so before we move on to more ETH failure, that was a total self-owned. That was absolute brilliant. It's really scary that that person decided to, film that without actually checking how, the Ethereum supply, the fact that it has no accurate maximum supply, the fact that it has an infinite maximum supply, and no way to verify the circulating supply. So this is brutal.
Dude, it's, you know what though, to give him credit though, I think he genuinely thought, like he thought something else. And then he was like, oh, but it's like a self-own, like he didn't know and he's like, oh, it must be similar to Bitcoin. But yeah, just fail. That's what it is. It's just a fail. Anyways, Alexandra, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's so interesting when the truth just actually tells the story for you.
Wow. Very well put.
So much better than us. Nice and clear, right? Nice and simple.
Just a phrase. Oh,
well,
we could just make the show a lot shorter, Phil. We just say cool phrases.
We could make them, you know what? We could fill them with more signal. That's what we have to do. All right, so look, moving on, right? That was a total failure. Let's keep on the path of the ETH failures. Hold on, let me make the screen bigger for everyone that's blind like me. Okay, so here we go. This is superfizz.eth. We can decentralize Ethereum today, or we can just spend the next 20 years acting like it's decentralized. No. So look, the fact that you're writing this tweet, that right away says everything about decentralization with Ethereum, okay? And I love this response from one of our fellow Bitcoiners. This dude often has great takes, and it's just too bad that not more people pay attention, but it's okay. I know how that goes when you're a newer account. It just takes a while till people realize, like, hey, this guy's got some good takes. So let's take a look. He goes, using a permissioned, and by the way, it's sudden actually. That's the account. Using a permissioned auth token supply that is also centrally pre-mined for consensus is a great way to go. Even more fun is how 1559, which is the Ethereum improvement protocol thing that they recently came out with to burn tokens, right? Burn the fees. Anyways, allows you to increase the percentage of auth tokens that were permissioned in central pre-mined. Has ETH ever done anything to decentralize control? Nah, this is true. This is true. And this is a total fail, and it's actually hilarious because these people have no idea what it is that they're quote-unquote building on, what it is that they're shilling on. And by that same token, let's move on to Evan Van Mess. All right, so here we go. Crypto crashed in 2018 because Ethereum didn't deliver. It's 2022 and Ethereum is delivering. All I got to do is scroll right on over to the Rect leaderboard and I could show you over $1 billion of rug pulls. $1 billion of rug pulls. Okay? That's what this is. So when he talks about delivering, I agree. It's delivered some rug pulls. It's delivered more affinity scams because now we also have NFTs that are scamming people into thinking that they're buying art. And not only that, but it's also delivered a giant central point of failure for all the people who dumped their liquidity into quote unquote ETH 2.0. $33 billion of liquidity locked up in a contract that they have no freaking clue how it's going to work. But they've got a roadmap with a lot of really funny words. Anyways, this is just brutal, Nico. What are your thoughts before we move on to the ultimate part of the shitcoin fail?
Yeah, dude, look, we started this yesterday when I pulled up that tweet referencing how it was just an Ethereum. It's like, Ethereum is going to be deflationary. Ethereum is going to be decentralized. That's not how it works. It has to be decentralized from the very get-go. And again, it doesn't solve the fundamental issue, which I've been trying to nail into you guys' heads, is money's been corrupted, right? Because humans have been able to manipulate the monetary policy. That's been like that for a very long time. The Romans did it. The United States is currently doing it. And I think that I fundamentally believe that is the root of all evil, right? Ethereum doesn't fix that issue, right? And you see it with that. It's going to be decentralized. It's going to be deflationary. Even with the best intentions over time, what you'll see is that system gets corrupted. Happened to the Romans over a period of 200 years, 300 years. Happened to the United States over a period of 50 years. So Bitcoin fixes this because it doesn't give the ability for humans to manipulate it, even if they really, really, really wanted to just this one time. No, right? So yeah, man, I and these ETH guys, it's like they're doing marketing for Bitcoin, but unfortunately, not enough people value decentralization. They, a lot of people, I fell into this trope, right? Which is you get into cryptocurrency and one of the first things that you do is like, oh look, this has better tech, this has better whatever. But at the end of the day, the thing that matters, right, if we do want to separate money from state, is decentralization above all. Anyways, Alexandra, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I think the more complicated that these protocols make themselves, the more it is to their detriment. They haven't really solved anything. I mean, how is it different than actual money that exists now? It's really not. There's no fixed supply. There's really weak game theory in all of these protocols, with the exception of Bitcoin. So, I question, like, why is it needed? Maybe some cool, like, cartoon cat characters, but I mean, you can't mint anyway because you have to stop using the blockchain because it's so congested, right? So, yeah, so many engineering issues.
There's so many.
That's awesome.
There's so many. Anyways, Phil, what is the last fail?
Well, you know what? This actually goes on the heels of what Alexandra was just saying, right? Why do we need this complexity? And here is another great example of where complexity just turns into it adds nothing but problems. And let's dive into it. Here we go. How the Juno network, and by the way, we were tagged by several people in this. This was Toxicat that tagged us, and Lucky Redfish. Those are the two that I remember. I apologize for anyone that I don't. I'm doing my best. Can't remember everyone. All right, here we go. How the Juno network DAO voted to revoke a whale's token. So just think about the decentralization we were just talking about with ETH before a second ago, right? And now here we go. There's another situation where you've got to fix the network and revoke someone's tokens, which instantly means this is garbage. This is censorship. All right. Let's dive into it here. The Proposal 16 asked the community of Juno token holders whether the wallet of one community member should have a large chunk of its token holdings removed. The reason, the address in question allegedly gamed a recent airdrop. So it found a hole in the system and it used it and it exploited it. Yeah, that means that this probably shouldn't have been money. Anyways, the address accumulated an exorbitant amount of Juno tokens, which, like almost all DeFi tokens these days, comes with voting power. So you know how they're always trying, this goes back to what Alexandra was saying about why this additional complexity is not needed. You see, you need the base layer to do one thing, and it needs to do this one thing with the closest possibility to certainty. So by not introducing these layers of garbage into the base layer, you can very come close to guaranteeing that. But you see, with this nonsense, you can't. There's always going to be another problem. We've shown you guys this in the past, where they literally introduce patches that introduce the next bug that causes the rug pull. Anyways, let's continue. The risk of not passing this proposal, according to the proposer, were a myriad, right? Because they want to take away his tokens. First, there's a single wallet in the ecosystem that already has half of the quorum. Second, with that amount of tokens, the holder could have also single-handedly wiped out the entire DEX liquidity in 10 minutes or less. Guys, we keep saying it. When you're providing liquidity to these pools, you are the use case for the rug pull. Like, this is all it is. Literally, this is what it is. Third, the whale had considerable power to bribe validators. Maybe you shouldn't put governance and voting into the base layer. I don't know. Anyways, finally, the current situation created fear in the community. These arguments appear to have persuaded much of the Juno community. On Tuesday, the yes vote won. Oh my gosh, no way. One Juno ambassador wrote a massive thread describing the entity as a ticking time bomb and worse version of a VC. Okay, I can give him that. That is the more centralized, crappy version of a VC, but they're already pretty bad. Okay, fine. Opposing voices penned threads describing the vote as setting a dangerous precedent. So, the couple of voices of reason in the shitcoin community there, they just got drowned the fuck out. They're gone, right? These people, they're not helping anybody. Taking money away from someone clever enough to grab those tokens via group vote sounds very anti-crypto. So look, this is where they're wrong. It's very anti-Bitcoin. It is total shitcoin. Like, this is par for the course with shitcoins and quote-unquote crypto people. Above all this sits the popular crypto ethos. No, that code is law and the blockchain is immutable. No, it's the Bitcoin ethos where code is law and the Bitcoin blockchain is immutable. So, see, but this is what they do with the confusion. As soon as you start meddling with the unmodifiable, you turn the coldly efficient computing power of blockchain into fallible human Discord and Twitter communities. If it's unmodifiable, then you shouldn't have been able to modify it. I mean, that right there, you just said it. So clearly, this shouldn't have been money. Clearly, this shouldn't have been doing governance, and obviously this shouldn't have allowed an attacker to gain control of 50% of the network in one airdrop. So look, this goes back to what we were saying with ETH. I mean, look, this is all a circus. We keep showing you one circus after another. We keep telling you that when you dump your money in here, you are the rug pull use case. You are providing the liquidity for them to take. That's what it is. Anyways.
Yeah, bro, beautifully said. First of all, like I always say, the shitcoiners and their names. So Juno's an awesome name. So they just take these awesome names, they hijack them. And one thing that stood out from that thing that you're reading is democracy, right? Look, I don't think I completely agree with Svetsky in the terms that, he completely hates. I think for governing people, perhaps democracy is a good system, but I don't know, because think about it, like, what other system? You want tyranny? Do you want a monarchy, right? I don't think we figured that out as a species. But what I can tell you, though, is that democratic money sucks, okay? This idea that, you could have voting power, and that voting power allows you, again, this is the concept that I talked about earlier, that voting power allows you to manipulate the monetary policy, right? I think that we need to take human beings out of the equation completely, just rely on math, right? And that's what Bitcoin does. Take democracy, take the mob out, right? Because unfortunately, what we'll see, what we've seen in the U.S. and what we see in other countries is the mob takes power or votes that political party in, and then that political party F's the other political party, right? And it's a disaster. For example, Canada, when they started freezing accounts, that is literally Democratic money. That is an example of Democratic money. Anyways, Alexandra, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting. The account freezes. I mean, that's so criminal. I think that's the definition of criminal, for freezing accounts based on having an unpopular, or I forget the exact words used, but having differing viewpoint than the official narrative. I mean, that's just, how is that not completely wrong? So yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what else to say on that. I think the article kind of speaks for itself. And, you know, when it comes to power, people who wish for power end up, you know, just abusing it in so many different ways. There's the quote, "Absolute power corrupts absolutely," and that's so true.
I say it all the time. So we're in sync, Phil.
And just to finish that off, and to add to that quote, right? There's another great quote, which is that it's not the noblest of people which desires to govern over their fellows. Yep. So, just saying, you know, it's
just saying. It was 6 months ago, say we're conspiracy theorists, but now I have no shame. Anyways, Phil, it's time for
the Daily Meme Review.
Brought to you by Citadel 21. It's the best Bitcoin cultural zine. It's stories, articles, comics by actual Bitcoiners. Every cover has different artwork by a Bitcoin pleb. This is volume 10. It just dropped. They're scarce. There's only 1,000 copies made per volume. Get your physical copy of Citadel 21 today. All right, guys, so you might notice a difference today because Phil didn't pick the memes, and he's a much better meme picker. Nico picked the memes. Let's see how I did, shall we? Okay, anyways.
You did fine.
Thanks, Phil. Beating Welsh for Bitcoin. Why didn't you just say... Okay, anyways, one of my favorite memes from last spring, still 100% worth it. New all-time high, telling the world's richest man to go fuck him. Bitcoiners.
Yup.
It's
and
true.
We'll do it again.
Yeah, this was... Shout out Ben, BTC Sessions. Awesome. One of the best Bitcoin YouTube channels. Anyways, he gave us this meme. Is Roger Ver with the... Where was he? From Bermuda. And he wanted to get paid in Bitcoin. And Bitcoin Cat. This is a great meme. This speaks for itself. Yeah. Like, I don't know why you'd want to get paid in that. I think he's getting paid to get paid in that.
Of course he is.
But Roger is relentless. He just keeps digging himself deeper and deeper and deeper. Anyways. And burning more and more Bitcoin. Anyways, Carl B. Merger, they can seize your gold, but they can't seize your Bitcoin. I found the pot. Where's the gold? Converted to Bitcoin. Ah, that's a good one.
Clever. Very clever.
Next one by Dude Dogie. Bitcoin fixes this. The Fed, Bitcoin. Absolutely hilarious. By the way, those two memes were recommended by plebs in the Telegram group. Shout out to you guys. Bitcoin is a scam. By Bitcoin, it's the future. Bitcoin is a scam. No value fiance. That is good. That's from the Dragon Ball Z. How much Bitcoin? Okay, anyways, moving on. Next one by Raleigh. Bitcoin empowers you. What gives people feelings of power? Money, status, Bitcoin. This is so true. Only if you take self-custody, though. Because if you don't take self-custody, it's a false sense of power. Anyways, Rothmus, your next task is to keep the lights on with 3 fewer nuclear plants, no gas from Russia, and the lowest winds in a decade. Germany. And this is what you guys get for believing that ESG garbage. Anyways, for those awesome memes, Phil, I'm going to give it a very special score of some blue blockers. Yeah. What about you, Phil?
I remember the blue blocker commercials. Those were hilarious. Okay. And they actually do work, interestingly enough. Okay. I thought those were awesome memes, and I am going to give it this very cool... That's all I have left at this point. Everything's packed. Air Blaster sticker. For the people who snowboard, you'll know Air Blaster.
Very cool.
You won't.
Very cool. Anyways, Alexandra, what would you give those memes?
So I'm hopeful that there's not too much glare. I'm going to give this an unconventional one. This is an old Air Force photo of my father.
Oh, wow. Very cool. That is awesome. Very cool. Air Force. Awesome. Very cool. Anyways, guys, we want to know if you agree, if you disagree. Let us know down in the comment section. And of course, make sure to subscribe to us on alternative video platforms like rumble.com and our personal favorite, bitcointv.com. They don't censor there because it's Bitcoin TV. And of course, join our Telegram group and link us some dank Bitcoin memes to review. But anyways, Phil, it's time for
the Daily News.
Brought to you by CryptoCloaks.com. They make the best 3D printed Bitcoin merch, like the famous 3D printed Bitcoin art sculpture. Opens up, you put your favorite hardware wallet in there, and you can also get this in any custom color your heart desires. You want to make that orange? You can make that orange. This just happens to be in El Salvador colors. And you can take advantage of the link down below for 5% off anything off the CryptoCloaks.com store. All right, so this article is so ridiculous, guys, that this is all I'm going to cover today. Because literally, usually what I would do is I'd pull out some highlights and I'd be like, oh, look, you know, and then me, Phil, and I would comment. But what we'll do is we'll go through the article. Phil's not going to be able to contain himself. Alexandra looks like he has she has a lot more self-control. So, anyways, this is the stuff that we have speculated about. But now they're not even hiding it anymore. They're literally telling you, right? Anyways, the name of the article is, anyways, the world should fear El Salvador's bizarre Bitcoin experiment. Each new initiative, like El Salvador's Bitcoin bond, could chip away at the greenback supremacy. Anyways, the tax haven, he's referencing El Salvador, built in the shape of a giant coin, would be financed with Bitcoin bonds. Bukele claimed to a certain amount of skepticism, but the Central American country is poised to launch its first $1 billion so-called volcano bond in the coming days. The finance minister has said it will be oversubscribed. Sovereign debt issuance is rarely this interesting. But now it is because Bitcoin. The actual bond makes very little investment sense. Oh, does it really? It pays interest of 6 cents, I guess that's what it says, 6%, which is much less than a standard Salvadorian sovereign bond, and its investors get 50% of the increase in value of Bitcoin after 5 years. If you think Bitcoin's great, why not invest directly in the cryptocurrency and get 100% of the upside and the ability to cash out whenever you want? Because we need meat space, right? We don't all live in the digital realm, right? Anyways, but the bond will also allow El Salvador, which adopted Bitcoin as its official currency last year, to raise money. Check this out, Phil. This is where the part where you won't be able to contain yourself. Beyond the prying eyes of international institutions like the IMF. That is a really good thing. Anyways, it's a swerve that is all the more topical given the economic sanctions that were imposed on Russia following its invasion of Ukraine. The West was able to effectively seize the Kremlin's foreign reserves and hamstring the country's banks because of the U.S. control over the dollar payment system. Remember the article that I read yesterday where Biden did the same thing to Afghanistan, and now there's hundreds of thousands of innocent Afghanis starving. In Cuba, same thing. Venezuela, same thing. Now, Russia's a country of 100 million people plus. So do you think those 100 million people are responsible for the actions of one bureaucrat, one politician? You think that's okay? Anyways, in recent years, the U.S. has begun to eschew, how do you say it? That's a weird word. Its assumed role as the world's policeman, and a process that arguably started under Barack Obama, accelerated under Donald Trump, and has been cemented under Joe Biden with the withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan. But while Uncle Sam has become increasingly reluctant to deploy boots on the ground, it still has the mighty greenback. The U.S. dollar is, to all intents and purposes, the world's currency of choice. For now. It dominates global central banking reserves, trade finance, and bank-to-bank payments, and is used in some 88% of all foreign exchange transactions. This means the U.S. Treasury can conscript foreign banks to do its bidding on pain of being shut out of the dollar clearing system, which no lender could survive. What is it that Alexandra said? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. This has allowed U.S. officials, right, not the U.S. people, select U.S. bureaucrats, to fashion a kind of all-seeing financial. This guy's vocabulary is very interesting. Phil, what the fuck is that word?
Panopticon.
I don't even know what that is, but sure. With a database of sanctioned individuals and firms that covers almost every nation on Earth. Yet concerns have been raised that weaponizing the dollar to place punishing sanctions on G20 economy, such as Russia, will result in other countries looking at ways to operate beyond the purview of the global financial system to avoid a similar fate. No shit. Do you just expect people to just lay down and take it? Like, it doesn't, like, this article, and I'm going to take this from Alex Gladstein. This guy's writing from a place of financial privilege, right? Cryptocurrencies are one means to undermine the power of the dollar. They allow online payments between two parties without the need for a financial intermediary. This opens up the possibility of financial products and services that are accessible to all and controlled by none. But up here, you say that's a bad thing. Like, this is absurdity. Like, who is the audience he's writing to? I don't know. But bucking against the dollar supremacy could come at a cost. For you, possibly. For the majority of the planet, I would say no, it does not. Talks between Bukele and the IMF over an important $1 billion loan have stalled after the lender became concerned that the adoption of Bitcoin could threaten financial stability. I love how he highlights that, but he also points in the article that it could undermine the IMF. So isn't the IMF incentivized to release a statement like this? Some thoughts. Moody's, what was Moody's known for, Phil, that you referenced a couple episodes ago? They did something in 2008.
Oh yeah, they were giving what is it? The
Bear
highest
Stearns. Bear Stearns.
Yeah, not just Bear Stearns, but Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, right? Which ended up getting taken back over by the government. They were giving them the highest ratings for their stocks, right? For investability.
Right before they all collapsed.
Right before they all collapsed.
And Moody's is also the firm that Joe Biden referenced when he said that the infrastructure bill, which didn't pass, the Build Back Better bill, would bring down inflation. This is Moody's. So Moody's has downgraded El Salvador's credit rating, and the country's dollar-denominated sovereign bonds have been dumped by international investors. Now that you know what Moody's is, I don't know about you guys, but I'm very bullish that Moody said that. It all places the central bank country in some slightly dubious company. Oh. There are signs that Iran has been using complicated workarounds to avoid U.S. sanctions in recent years. And North Korea has used ransomware attacks to steal cryptocurrency in order to fund its nuclear program. Again, remember I read you that New York Times article a long time ago? Somehow cryptocurrencies are connected to nuclear programs, according to the UN. All of these countries, including El Salvador, were among the 35 which abstained in the recent UN vote condemning the Ukraine invasion. Bukele is due to visit Moscow in July. There's very little chance of the dollar losing its crown as the global currency of choice anytime soon. I disagree. However, check this out, Phil. This is really fucking crazy. However, each new initiative like El Salvador's Bitcoin bond could chip away at the greenback supremacy a little, potentially making the world that bit harder to police, a touch more dangerous. Who the fuck are you? Get off your high horse, my friend. Not my friend. I don't even know what to call you. There's so much pomp and stuff in that article. It clearly comes from someone who's one of the few people that's benefiting from the fiat financial system. Because the majority of the world is not. So it comes from a place of financial privilege. It comes from a place of, I don't give a shit about the starving people, the people that get affected by sanctions. We want to keep a group of unelected bureaucrats in the IMF the power to use his words, not mine, policing the world. That's insane. And then he's also talking like, as if North Korea and Russia and Iran and all these countries don't have a right to find another way because you're not allowing them to use your way. Like, dude, there's so much contradiction, so much insanity. But guys, the reason I wanted to cover that, right? Like the articles that I used yesterday, these are all legitimate sources. This is the New York Times, Financial Times. We had USA Today, and this one was The Telegraph. It's a very famous paper in the UK. So these aren't like some crazy sites. This is telling you exactly what the elite financial minds are thinking. They're telling you what they're thinking. And this also tells me that Bitcoin is winning. Phil?
I was not aware of how many things Bitcoin is responsible for. So just a quick recap, right? Bitcoin is responsible for laundering money, for terrorism. It's responsible for racism. It's also responsible for protests
and the development of nuclear weapons in North Korea.
That's what I was gonna say. That was the piece I didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, man,
Yeah.
So now we're doing that too? So this is, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't know how they're supposed to stop this thing, because it just does everything. And it just does everything better. Look, no head to chop off. It just, no metaphorical head to chop off, sorry. Not projecting violence. But I'm just saying, there's no metaphorical head to chop off, and it's doing everything without needing to be steered. And okay, just to go back to this article, I found it incredibly disingenuous and confusing what that author was doing. So, because they were introducing all these conflicting ideas, and really all it did at the end of the day, and I think this is completely done on purpose, is leave a person not knowing and confused. So you know what? I may as well just trust the government.
Yep.
Because this is what happens, right? Like people, this goes back to something that I've said in the past with the whole like everybody, people want a parent figure. Okay, like not everybody, but the majority of people, like they feel comfortable, and that's kind of what the state provides, this parental figure, and like this is kind of what this article does. This article leaves you scared and confused, and I just need to make sure that some parental figure is going to tell me that everything's all right and how to make it okay. And that to me is what that article is meant to do.
Absolutely, dude. Honestly, it reads like a meme. Like it's so ridiculous. It's so pompous. Like I can't take it. Like you have to take it seriously, because this is what the elites are reading. They read those types of publications, right? So it's like, this is what they're smelling. Like this is what they're intaking, right? But they don't know how to kill this thing. They're using all the old tropes, all the old narratives, and it just won't go away, right? So yeah, man, this is a victory, but also I suspect, Phil, that when more countries follow El Salvador, you think that the media is bad now, the legacy media is bad now. Wait till then, right? So yeah, this is very scary stuff. But anyways, Phil.
Just before we go to Alexandra, I just want to add, wait till more people start talking about SDRs, which is essentially what the IMF uses to indirectly control and enslave countries under the guise of financial aid. I'm sorry. Go on, Alexandra.
Yeah, a couple of things I wanted to add. So, bit of a history lesson. We haven't had journalism for a really long time. There's a headline, and we really haven't, not objective journalism. There was a headline back in right around when Fox News first came out called The Line of Thinking Anyway, if it bleeds, it leads. And that's right around in the early 90s when things became a lot more sensationalized. And the idea was you have a 24-hour news cycle. Who's going to watch? Well, you have to make sure you have all these sensationalized stories. So if you look at most articles today, you'll see a thesis or a narrative within that references loosely fear, uses all sorts of concerning scare tactics, things like that, without really backing up very many sources. They'll throw in the odd source so people can't say, oh, there's no sources. But it's really few and far between. You'll also notice a concerted effort between multiple publications, perhaps under an umbrella company, spouting exactly the same headline, which is a little concerning in itself. So I think the deeper you look at this, the more you actually look at the data, it kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah, I agree with you. Those very, very good points. And there's a very famous video, which I'll play for you guys, which is, this is very dangerous for our democracy. And it's like literally 100 of news anchors, and they're literally spouting out the exact same line.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
It's not even original thought. It's literally they're reading off a prompter, right? So yeah, and I agree with you. I think that, in the US, because, we have the First Amendment and free speech and all that, I think we essentially have convinced ourselves it's like, yeah, we have journalists, but I think what the internet has highlighted is the fact that these aren't journalists. They're professional narrative creators. I would even go on a limb and I would say they're worse than what the Soviet Union had, which was the state paper over there was called Pravda, which means truth in Russian. This is worse because at least over there you kind of knew. Or like everyone kind of knew, but here people don't know. I think the internet has created this great awakening, and then in the great awakening it's created like the intellectual dark web, and you have individuals that are telling the truth or going against the narrative, and they become very popular because I think people have a natural urge, like they're looking for that, right? This is why Jordan Peterson blew up. This is why Joe Rogan blew up. This is why all these popular Ben Shapiro, this is why all these independent content creators got so famous so fast. And it was, I think it was a tweet from Jack Posobiec, and I keep reiterating this. I don't think I've said it on the show. If social media was around in 2003, I don't think we would have invaded Iraq. I think people would have waken up. So yeah, I agree with you 100%, Alexandra. But you know, at least these people are so pompous that at least they're telling us. You know, it's like, this is whatever. So we have a little bit more time than I thought. So I'm just going to go through this very quickly. I thought this was very interesting. I'd love to get your guys' thoughts. It's just a headline. So check this out. This is from Canada, Phil. Shout out. Digital donate
Alex
currency.
is Canadian, I think, too.
Oh, I'm outnumbered. Okay, digital Canadian.
That's right. There's two of us drinking
We're
maple
taking
syrup.
over.
Phil will not take me to go see a moose. That's fucked up.
He doesn't deserve it, Alex.
I come from Venezuela. I don't see mooses. We have monkeys, right? We don't have mooses. And I said, Phil, go take me to see a moose. And he's like, nah. So it's fucked up. Anyways.
This is what I deal with Alex on a daily basis, just so you know, okay?
I do text Phil at 1 a.m, sending him moose gifts. That's what Phil has to deal with. Anyways, digital currency donations for freedom convoy evading seizure by authorities. So again, a lot of noise there, but I'll break it down. So most of the roughly 1 million in known donations raised in digital currency, Bitcoin specifically, for the Freedom Convoy appears to have evaded seizure by authorities more than a month after the federal government invoked the Emergencies Act to freeze convoy assets, according to CBC News investigation. Do you know how powerful that is? That is why they're writing articles like this. Connect the dots.
They can't stop it.
This brings fear into these people. That's why they write those articles. And their usual tool of getting the individual is not accessible to them. The fact that you have one of the most powerful governments in the world and they can't touch the funds. And by the way, it would have been way more than $1 million if JWW didn't fuck up. Okay? So, yeah, that is an extremely powerful article, and I tried to connect it with the previous article so you guys could kind of get an idea of what is happening in real time. Phil?
That article I thought was just hilarious. I mean, are you kidding me? Like that piece that you read? That's one of the major reasons why we Bitcoin. Doesn't everybody deserve to have censorship resistant money? That should make every single person deep inside really freaking happy. Yep. Finally, there's something that the government cannot touch, and they can scream and shout and do whatever they want. But at the end of the day, the only way they're going to get it is if I choose to give it to them.
Yep.
I have to choose to do it. So, you know what? Good for us. It's about time. Maybe this will start to force what we've been saying all along. It's time for the governments to learn how to provide value.
Absolutely. Alexandra, what are your thoughts?
I mean, being a Canadian, I almost have to watch what I say, which is pretty scary, right? The Emergency Act, first of all, I mean, that broke all of our charters and freedoms. There's a case right now that's going on that's actually litigating against that, and hopefully it goes forward. But yeah, it's set a very dangerous precedent. And what ended up happening, of course, it was walked back about a week after it was enacted. But interestingly, I was traveling down to the States right around that same time, basically a day after it had been enacted. And I was randomly selected for additional security measures. So I had to watch all of my, And I mean, it was probably just a random thing, just luck of the draw or unluck of the draw, unluckiness of the draw. But basically I had to watch them go through my entire carry-on piece by piece, like swabbing it for whatever that thing is. And they left my luggage completely alone, even though it was also carry-on. But like I had one backpack that they went through like makeup bag, everything, and it probably took about 30 minutes. And, if I didn't know my rights, I certainly would have felt intimidated. And afterwards, I was a little bit shaken. So stuff like that can happen to really anyone the moment that there's government overreach. And I think is that a world that we want to continually accept? And I really don't think it should be. It starts out small. It's one isolated group, and all of a sudden, it's a whole bunch of other people just for having the wrong opinion.
Exactly. And this goes back to the fail segment where I said, look, Democratic money sucks, right? Because it's like, whatever the mob, it's like the mob's whatever, and you happen to be the contrarian party. Now, all of a sudden, your political ideas aren't accepted, right? So it's absolutely crazy. Bitcoin really does fix this, and we're winning, and it's awesome. But that means that they're going to fight harder. But anyways, Phil, there was an open source software release today. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
Software releases brought to you by CipherSafe. Check them out, ciphersafe.io. Let's face it, you've got to store your seed. I've got to store my seed. So does Nico. Why not store it in the best place, the Cypher Wheel or the all-new Cypher Grid? They both come with tamper-resistant wire, and the grid comes with a punch tool. We've got Bisq version 1.8.4 that was released. It's down below in the show notes. Don't forget to check us out on our audio-only platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. And if you want to stream us some sats, fountain.fm.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. All right, guys, before we go, I want to give a very special shout out to our awesome sponsor, Rep Hard, representltd.com. Phil and I try to wear different hoodies every day, and you can take advantage of the link down below for 10% off anything off the rephard.com store. I also want to give a very special shout out to our awesome guest, Alexandra. You can go give her a follow on Twitter, Alexandra993. She's the founder / host of the ADV Tech podcast, and she's the VP product of the Liquid LQWD FinTech. Really cool stuff. Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash that like button. And of course, if you want to continue hearing the Bitcoin news from the pleb perspective and the catastrophic fails, definitely consider subscribing to Simply Bitcoin. And we'll see you tomorrow, guys, for a brand new episode.
The Bitcoin experiment is scaring legacy finance, and it shows.